Hello everybody and welcome back to Swamp Dog Games. Today we're going to be doing a review of the brand new RPG Humble Bundle, the Shadowrun 5th Edition Mega Bundle. We'll look at what you get in it, if it's worth your time and energy, if it's a good jumping in point for the Shadowrun universe, if it's a good RPG in general. So stay tuned as we take our deep dive. Also, if you enjoy the bundle review, you like what you see in the bundle and wish to purchase it for yourself, there'll be a link in the pinned comment down below and in the video description. If you buy it through our affiliate link, you can also help support the channel, which we can then do more Humble Bundle reviews so that we can do a deep dive to see if they're worth your time and energy before you go out and get them yourself. But now, on to the Shadowrun review! So, before talking about 5th edition, I believe we should talk about the elephant in the room, the fact that this is actually was discontinued, I believe, back in 2017, because Shadowrun is actually in their 6th edition right now. And I know 6th edition came out well before the pandemic happened. I was a big Shadowrun 4th edition player. Loved it, loved the game, the setting, played it with friends constantly. When 5th edition came out, they moved into 5th edition. I kind of, unfortunately, went in my own direction. I played it a couple times, enjoyed it. It just was not particularly my thing, but that is also because of buy-in bias I had, because I had bought practically everything for 4th edition, wasn't willing to just abandon it that early into the 5th edition life cycle. So it was fine, it just didn't grab my interest to be able to overcome buy-in bias. The 6th edition, which is currently out, however, is, while though I've never played it personally, I know most people regard it as trash. All of my friends dislike it. Anytime you do a review of it, 6th edition Shadowrun is lambasted constantly. The reason being, at least from my friends' reviews of it, is that it came out way too early with zero quality control about the content of the book. Graphically looks great, but rules-wise, you could tell it did not have enough time in pre-production to finish it up so items could be synergized, and instead you just have all this random crap thrown together in a rule book. It looks like they tried to compete against Cyberpunk 2077, the RPG, and so they shoved 6th edition out the door too early, and therefore it is regarded, for the most part, as one of the worst editions of Shadowrun out there. I'm not sure if I should read into the fact that last year they did have a 6th edition Humble Bundle, and now they're doing a 5th edition bundle for their rules that they actually discontinued. Makes me think that maybe they're going to be trying to do a revision again closer to the 5th edition version of Shadowrun. All of my friends were big 5th edition fans. They made the jump, no issue. Everyone that I know that plays Shadowrun 5th edition had no huge issues with it that's compared to the 6th edition version. It just wasn't my cup of tea after investing so heavily into 4th, but it's reviewed quite positively overall in the Shadowrun RPG systems that are available. In the Humble Bundle itself, you have the 2-item bundle. This is $1. This is really only if you have Shadowrun already and just want the Seattle Sprawl package. In my opinion, this is not a good entry point into it. You get a adventure and effectively the Seattle Gazetteer, and that's about it for this bundle. Normally $1 item bundles have a decent option to start off with. In this case, I wouldn't. Same thing going for the $7 version. You do get some advanced rule books if you do already have the core rules that might make it valuable, but at the price that they're asking for, it's really pushing you into the entire 17-item bundle. Right now, even on Drive-Thru RPG with the GM Day sales, the core rulebook is about $13 on sale, I believe. So you get the core rulebook and all of these advanced rules and a couple of adventure settings, all for $18 right now. This is really the point that you want in this bundle. Now, as a Humble Bundle, Unlike the Paizo bundle recently, where you bought the bundle and then you just got a code that you redeemed it on Paizo's website and you ended up getting a DRM enabled PDF for your use. Here, this uses the traditional Humble Bundle media delivery mechanism. So you buy the bundle, it's attached to your account, it's in your library, you can download it at any time. Here you get 17 DRM free PDFs that are permanently in your account. You can bulk download them. You can also use BitTorrent systems to download it. Only the Seattle Sprawl has a zip because there's some additional content in there, but this is all DRM-free PDFs for your personal use. As I said, the all books in here, only 2 of the 17 are below 150 pages in length. These are some long materials. Oh, and as you can see here, currently the Master index version of the Shadowrun 5th edition is actually going for $14. So for $4 more, you get all this material through Shadowrun. Now, the Master Index version of the 5th edition rules is a later printing of the core rules, so it does have some errata fixes in it, but its main benefit is that it also has master indexes for all official core Shadowrun material in here. That's the main benefit of the master index version. So even if the rules aren't in here, it does have the index included, so you know where to go look for the rules for whatever you want in the 5th edition core rulebook. As Shadowrun a setting goes, it's a future dystopian cyberpunky nightmare situation. Unlike stuff like Neuromancer or Cyberpunk 2077, this one does have the tech aspect, such as the Matrix, but also has a huge magic component. You look at the setting, essentially, at some point in our history, a comet comes by, not enough EMP damage to destroy technology to the point it throws humanity into a dark age, but ends up giving everybody amnesia, ends up changing their genetic profile, so you now have dwarves and trolls and elves, and does wipe a lot of historical data from the from computers of the background that everybody's operating in, and introduces magic into the world. So if you like your future dystopian sci-fi setting with both a Matrix and a magic capability, this is going to be the setting for you. It uses a die pool system for action resolution. So you take the number that's assigned to your core attributes, and then if the skill check that you're doing has a skill that you're trained in, then you take the number from your skill, you add the two die together, two numbers together. That's how many d6s you roll. 5 and 6s are successes, and you add +1 to your success pool. 1s are failures, and you add -1 to your success pool. The goal being that your successes number will hopefully be larger than the target number, in which case you have a success. Depending upon how many failure rolls you get, the ones on the die, that can either determine that you get a success with complication or possibly a critical failure where the bomb blows up in your face type deal. Character creation is a little complicated. 5th edition did simplify it, if my memory serves me correctly, from 4th edition. The best analogy I can think of is, think Dungeons and Dragons is World of Warcraft in character creation. Shadowrun is EVE Online in character creation. And I'm not talking about just the settings. I'm talking about the difficulty initial learning curve to play the games is probably best exemplified by that analogy. It is, for the most part, classless. Classes though some material refers to classes if you're using third-party content, mostly that means just templates. So when you hear people talk about their rigger or their hacker or their street ninja, it's not an official class. It's more of a template job description of what their character's trying to accomplish. You have a bunch of special traits slash think feats that you can buy for your character, as well as the skills that they have for action resolution. There, you do also have negative traits in this. An example would be think ambidextrous. So that would be a positive trait that you can give your character. So you take less penalties when you dual arming weapons and in a combat situation, versus you could take a negative trait, lost a limb, in which case now you've lost your left arm and now only have one arm that you can engage actions with. Now, because this is a dystopian cyberpunk future, you can also buy all kinds of implants that can overcome disadvantages you have, such as if you did take the loss of an arm using your initial character creation currency, you could, for instance, buy a replacement robotic arm that functions just as well. So essentially, you get some negative character creation points for other core traits and just take a financial penalty, essentially. As you can see here, looking at the character sheet, these are, again, your core attributes, and these are your skills with the ratings that they are added to and what type of skills they are, the type they are. You do have IDs and lifestyles. There's a lot of expenses. Think that your character just isn't ethereally camping everywhere. You're actually in a city that you have to pay rent for. The condition modifier track, this has been a staple for the Shadowrun series. Essentially, your damage track are all these boxes. Your maximum capability here, for instance, your physical damage track, your 8 plus body divided by 2, round up, boxes on the physical damage track. That's how much damage you can take. And every time you go through an entire line, then you start to, or get into a new line, then you start taking penalties to various checks. This does break down physical versus stun damage. So physical is going to be your permanent damage, such as getting shot, broken bones, items like that. Stun track, these are going to be less permanent damage. Think fatigue. There are some times where some combat maneuvers that you can pull end up fatiguing your character. They'll take stun damage, or less permanent damage that will occur through like tasers or other pain compliance items rather than through permanent damage. These character sheets are much simpler than the 4th edition. Some great art in the 5th edition rulebook, by the way. And then here's what I was talking about. This is your Street Samurai. This is sort of a basic template that you can get, not actually a class that you are playing. The character creation still requires something of a spreadsheet. If you can, there are some free tools online. Hero Labs also had a 5th edition character creator. This is one of those systems that, juggling everything for character creation, you really want to have someone's app or someone's pre-built spreadsheet. Trying to do this yourself, it's more than possible and can be done. It's just going to be really time consuming, and particularly if you're trying to juggle things for character build optimization purposes, you really need external tools to help you with that process and character generation. The system, as I said, does use magic. It uses its own magic system for spell resolution. It's not Vancian. You essentially have to roll to see if you can actually overcome the power requirement of the spell for each time that it's used. There is a matrix that has evolved quite significantly over the lifespan of the Shadowrun series, going back into 4th edition when you saw post Matrix the film that influenced the Matrix quite heavily going forward. This effectively secondary world that you can enter and engage in with avatars that look human or dragon or whatnot that you're engaging in. The Matrix system has continued to evolve a little bit. I have not kept up with it, but it is, again, think Matrix, the movie, will give you a pretty good idea of how it works. The street magic capabilities, there's a lot of spells that you have options to, as well as another spell book that we'll be getting to shortly. This rule set, even if you don't want to play it for Cyberpunk, I have adopted it to other settings. It requires a little bit of work on the GM's part, but if you like the die pool system and like just the sheer volume of content they give you access to, if you need something sci-fi or cyberpunky, feeling like you want to do this in space, that's an option, or you want to do maybe cut out all the magic and just use it as a replacement for a modern RPG setting, that also works. Its design and balance does not really facilitate, in my view, a historical fantasy setting that well. So if you're using, because all the rules are assuming guns and laser swords and grenades and modern weapons and future sci-fi weapons, the balance with older style weapons in the setting with swords, and also the very number of melee weapons that are available, that would be available in Ye Olden period, are kind of few and far between in comparison to all the guns, and aren't as, in my opinion, balanced that well if those are going to be your primary combat mechanisms. They're fine when balanced against the weapons or the guns in this setting, but historical fantasy is not a setting that I would recommend for the Shadowrun system, but it does work great in other sci-fi settings with some work, and there are a lot of fan content for it as well. You do get kind of a basic bestiary in the system, lots of poisons, and there's a huge economy system that is involved in this just because of how complex the economy of the cyberpunk future is. You're essentially an underground, within the setting, a criminal. You, of course, are the hero of your own adventure. You could be trying to fight against the totalitarian corporations, but you are part of an underclass in the setting that is useful because, by being an underclass, therefore you're not officially registered with most of the system, and therefore are useful agent of a lot of corporations in the space because of plausible deniability by using someone who isn't registered to the system. There's lots of augmentation capacity that you have, huge amount of customization when it comes to vehicle and weapon customization. If you, again, like EVE Online, you like your spreadsheet play of characters, there's tons of optimization capabilities in this setting. That is the core rulebook, as I said, about 505 pages. The next book that you get in it is the Advanced Combat Rules. So these are all technically optional rules, but allow for all kinds of advanced play in the system. It does also allow for more weapons that are available in here, new pistols, new equipment. So even though the rules might be optional, there's still a lot of equipment in here that you do want to give your players access to, as it will change the combat systems. You do have some NPCs that are available in here. Its primary benefit is, though, going to be the advanced weapons and the additional rules that come with said weapons in this rule book, the Street Lethal guide. The other expanded rules is the Run Faster book. This is advanced options for players. This is going to be more build options that are available. You do have advanced things that you can tack on top of your character. Again, all of this is optional. It's not needed, and it can increase the complication for the GM trying to figure out what everybody has access to. But it does also provide some basic history and build options for the various races in the system. It does provide NPCs that are available, some build packages. So unlike the core rulebook, which focuses mainly on build point system mechanics, this one has some build packages that you can buy in it, as well as additional positive and negative traits that you can take for your character build in here. The next big book that you get in this is the Run and Gun supplement. This is focused mainly on your weapons and equipment guide for Shadowrun. If you want all kinds of new melee or ranged weaponry, this booklet has it all. It does have armor. Pretty much any combat-oriented equipment that you could want is going to be in the Run and Gun supplement. It does have some additional character consideration, build options in here, as well as a huge amount of to facilitate some of the advanced weapons that are available in here. But it mostly includes advanced modification rules of all the weapons, arms, and equipment that come with the core rulebook in this Run and Gun supplement. Moving on, the next supplement at 242 pages is the Chrome Flesh Handbook. This is going to be your primarily focused on augmentation rules. So again, you want that hidden compartment in your arm that has both a hard drive, allows you to control computers remotely, jack into Skynet, and open up your dog food can for dinner tonight. This is going to be your augments for that. It does also include the rules to have these more advanced augments built into the character creation process. It does also have some rules for advanced mental health issues your character can have as well during the character creation. So pretty much anything that affects either the body or the mind during character creation that's not magical in nature, this is going to be your rulebook for that. It does have some programming material in here because some of the augments will assist hackers in their job hacking the system. So there is some advanced material in there, but it is primarily focused on non-magical augmentation of yourself and does include non-magical permanent injuries that can also negatively impact the player as well in the Chrome Flesh rules. Rigor 5.0 is primarily your vehicle guide. So while we've already had the weapons expansion, this is going to be all of your getaway vehicles, the tanks, the helicopters that are available to your character, additional tools to allow direct integration. After all, this is a world where you can have AI-assisted driving. So unlike Tesla cars currently, here you can actually create a smart vehicle that you can drive you to work, or you can, for instance, remote control with your mind, those types of add-ons in here. And if you want to engage in like a Death Race 2000 scenario with the amount of weapons that you can also mount on these. Not just vehicles, but also direct what we would call traditional drones, such as your aviation, underwater and space exploration drones as well are included in here. that also a lot of advanced combat equipment. Again, most of it is arguably reasonably based. The material, nothing goes so outrageous that it goes into the that you have to suspend your disbelief to think that this could exist in here. But there are a lot of fantastical vehicles and equipment that you can get. Where is the drone section? Oh yeah, like construction and maintenance drones and robots and those types of things that you can get in here as well to conduct operations on your behalf, or can save your runner from getting shot in a combat situation. All of these vehicles, as well as advanced customization and advanced rules for engaging in like advanced driving mechanics that to facilitate all of the new driving equipment that you get in this booklet. Kill code is your advanced matrix rules. I'm going to try to avoid making comparisons between this and Facebook's meta and digging on meta for just what a bad idea it is. But it is now, because it's morphed a little bit from the original Matrix the movie, it does incorporate some meta aspects in it. The most recent one, I'm not sure if this is still just post Matrix or started including like all the advanced or this one would probably have been influenced more by Second Life because it came out before the modern meta garbage did from Facebook. But the idea that you can run around in this fantasy world, jack in Ready Player One style adventures, you could have theoretically your group is just all 90-year-old retirees, for instance, and the entire game is just them jacking into the Matrix to engage in adventures back in ye olden youngen days. Type thing. This is all the advanced rules and stuff that you need to engage in that Matrix style adventure. Remember that similar to Matrix the movie, here you die in the Matrix, you physically die in the real world as well, unless you have advanced safeguards in place. But to really push your character to be able to like fully experience the joy and the extremes of VR, often they disregard all those safeguards, and that's why your characters will probably die if they die in the Matrix. Now, in setting there for corporate security or corporate liability protection reasons, most people don't actually die. They leave the safeties on, but because that gives them sort of a dulled down experience where think you're playing an MMO. You know you're playing an MMO, therefore you know nothing bad is going to happen to you, but you don't get to feel the full experience. You turn off all of those safeties, now you get to experience physical touch sensation of the flowers in the universe, or get to feel the breeze on your face. Those require safety bypasses that put your player character more at risk, and that's why Shadowrunners are likely to die if they engage in that type of extreme Matrix experience, or they just want such a vivid reality that they can truly forget that they're not in the real world. That's the type of Matrix setting that you have, as well as the types of NPCs that exist in the Matrix environment. Street Grimoire, this is magic, just in a nutshell. That's pretty much all it is. You want more spells. You want an understanding of how magic, a more advanced understanding of how magic works in the Shadowrun system, how the different corporations are trying to exploit it, all the magical realms that are available to your players in the system. There is, I don't remember how they called it. On the page it says magical traditions. So you do have magic, but then different interpretations of how it exists. So there are some spells, for instance, that are locked behind certain traditions that just because of how those traditions interact with the magical world. There's advanced NPCs that are magic users to be able to put them in your game. Remember, this being a cyberpunk world, magic, it's not hidden. There's no everybody knows magic exists, and so cybersecurity often has to have both physical and magical defense mechanisms set up to protect people's property. So you do have lots of threat profiles that could impact players. So this is going to be required if you want to engage in a full-on proper Shadowrun. Not advanced, but expanded magical component, magical options systems that are available to your players, particularly the magical creatures that you can summon and may be summoned against you in this supplement. Howling Shadows. This is primarily, think, bestiary. Critters and creatures are a little bit different how they're handled in Shadowrun. Some things because you can mind control them. You can, in some cases, use them as the basis that your character is built on top of, such as vampires is an option that you can build your character off of some advanced diseases and some advanced creature threats. It does. The reason why it says kind of bestiary is because this does include real world creatures, but also does include some matrix threats and matrix spirits that you can be at risk of encountering if you're engaging in the Matrix. Again, this being the cyberpunk future, you have all the critters you're used to, and then some that have just been edited because of just toxic waste dumps. Maybe there's a little bit been too much of the East Palestine style train wrecks in this setting. And lots of creatures are running around besides just the elves and dwarves and the like. This setting even has demons and ghosts that are, think, that bad Final Fantasy movie from early 2000s, The Spirits Within. There's sections of the former United States that now have ghosts that can kill you just roaming around because of this quasi-post-apocalyptic setting that Shadowrun takes place in, as well as just because of all the toxic dumping that's occurred because of all the evil megacorps that have done their thing. But you can have all kinds of pets and critters that you can mind control or train to do things on your behalf. I'm sure if you need a mortar-firing octopus to set up a diversion for you, long story short, that did happen in one of our games. There's plenty of options to choose from in here, as well as, again, more advanced non-humanoid templates to build your own character off of in these rules as well. Data trails. It says the core Matrix handbook. Again, just because of how complicated the Matrix is in this setting, there are the two involved in here. This is, again, just more material to help with the game master and the players understand the complexities of how the Matrix works. It does give you extra options for character creation to allow more efficient integration between your character and the Matrix. Better understanding of how the mega corporations interact with the Matrix, and just how effectively, for loss of a better term, the Matrix / metaverse impact the daily life of denizens in the Shadowrun setting. Forbidden Arcana. This is your advanced magic rules. Again, you want more spells. Different options of how magic works are available in here. Better character creation options to allow better integration between your character and magic. Just as a reminder, in this setting, though, magic and technomancers are completely separate. If you're magical, then you can't be a technomancer. That's also was in a couple of the previous books as well, advanced technomancy. So you have, it's kind of a magical ability to like control computers. Think you turn into Neo from the Matrix films, like the third one, where he can actually like in remotely invoke himself into the Matrix without having to physically connect to it. That's a technomancer. The magic system is you're able to actually manifest spells in the real world to defeat enemies and need then technical assistance in the digital realm. Again, more advanced character created material and better ideas of how to integrate the advanced features of magic into your game session. This one is a little bit puzzling to me, the reason for its existence. This is the complete Trog. So in this setting, that's going to be your trolls and orcs. And this is entirely dedicated to players that want either trolls or orcs. That the lifestyle, how they live in the world, the different clans, the different threats, just how they're viewed in society, the different gangs they belong to. This is only for those that are like big into, again, trolls and orcs. That's all this book is dedicated to. It does give you plenty of troll and orc NPCs, but again, it's a very single note book, trolls and orcs. If you don't want either of those, this one you can probably skip. Now we're moving from player options, and now we're finally getting into more GM material. So the Dark Terrors book, this is the start of actual plot assistance for the Game Master. This does focus a little bit more on the supernatural threats, but it's basically a guide to how the criminal world of Shadowrun works. You want an idea of how your characters get contacted by megacorps to engage in these illicit contracts on their behalf. You want to understand how the criminal underworld functions. You want to understand how the megacorps rose to power. This is mostly a setting guide for the world as a whole of how the world functions, the current state of the United States. There's bugs, and like this is like Pathfinder Demon Baby bugs ruling half of the country in areas. This is you want to know how the United States and Canada and Mexico have kind of fallen apart, and kind of the state of the world in general. That's going to be this guide. This one doesn't have much for the player in here other than just providing additional assistance to understand how the world works. This is primarily focused on the game master so they can understand better the setting that they're actually going to be creating for their players. It does have GM advice on how to set up adventures in the setting, some of the ways to think about how the criminal underworld works now that they have access to magic and a functioning matrix / metaverse in here. This is going to be primarily on assisting you understanding the Shadowrun world as a whole in this book. There's not much for the characters themselves, but it does have some content that can be used to set up an adventure and some NPCs that are in here. While the last one was a setting guide, it did focus more towards like the magical side of how the world works. But it does include general information about the world setting as a whole. Market Panic is more about the megacorp situation of things. So similar to the other one, it's a setting guide. It tells you how the mega corporations work, the types of interactions they have with each other, with the citizenry, how it got to this point, how players can be hired and for counter megacorp actions, and adventure settings. Again, this one being focused more on the real world slash much bigger focus on the corporate world itself, versus the other one going into how the dragons rule the world and how bugs and insects control half of the United States. This is going to be your more practical, physical world guide rather than your ethereal world guide the other one was. Stolen Souls is a Deep Shadow sourcebook. This is somewhat focused as a gazetteer on New York City, I believe specifically Manhattan. So this is going to be your East Coast guide. It does include adventure material in here for a specific virus that's going around. Without spoiling it, it's like the technocratic version of COVID. So instead of being built by the Chinese, it's built instead by megacorps, and essentially think kind of Resident Evil, to turn you into their pawn setting type thing, or their bioweapon pawn without turning you into a full-on zombie. But this does include setting materials for the New York City and the East Coast of UCAS, and does have adventure module combined together in this booklet. It does have some additional player material in here beyond that, but its primary focus is again on East Coast operations of Shadowrunners, and specifically the New York area, and a particular issue that's going around the New York area at the time that this setting takes place. Oh, yep, here's where it says Manhattan right here. As I said, this is your gazetteer guide for the New York operations area. Serrated Edge, this is actually a full-on proper adventure in all classical senses in here, versus some of the other ones which did include material that could be used for adventures and maybe plot ideas. Serrated Edge is from beginning to end an adventure and is recommended only for game masters to read. You sort of go on a medical data retrieval op, and then things keep going worse from there as you get pulled into this epic conspiracy that your players are now a part of. The last section we're going over is, it says Emerald Shadows. This is actually all part of the Seattle Sprawl set. So the Shadowrun setting, for the most part, is sort of East Coast, and then there's kind of Seattle and the West Coast. Most of the in-between has been kind of wiped out or taken over by all these spirits and bugs and other things. This was a physical box set that was issued. This was actually big enough that it would, a box set that I'm actually looking at it right now, about the physical dimensions of like the Pathfinder core rulebook, so it was actually a decently sized box. It did have maps as well as some additional material. The Emerald Shadows, this is effectively the Seattle Gazetteer. Whilst that other book had Manhattan with some rules and sort of an adventure with the Resident Evil virus going around, this is only dedicated to the Seattle megaplex and how Seattle as a city works. And it does include some relations between Seattle and some of the surrounding area, and how Seattle fits into the wider UCAS area, because UCAS is actually more of an East Coast government that happens to have, because of old laws and trade negotiations, still has Seattle on the West Coast. But this is only focused on those if you want an adventure in Seattle. But from my personal experience, that tends to be where everybody sets their adventures, is in Seattle in here. Before I get on to that, so you do have that first book, which is the Gazetteer for Seattle. This is a more in-depth look in how Seattle actually runs as a city from a government perspective. This is only going to be for, again, your hardcore game masters that want to know how the world works. It goes into the government, it goes into the economics, it goes into a lot of the back end details that only us true game masters really care about in world. Like if you want to know about the economic concerns and theories that are up in here, and how the different governmental breakdown in the setting is, this is going to be the book you want for that. Uh, this is just a one-page description of what's in the box. The I prefer the fourth edition. They had a Seattle map that actually had a little bit more guide. This came in the box. This is the big PDF. Now, let me just put it to you this way. I have a Ryzen 9 in this PC and a 3080, an RTX 3080 in here, and this is still causing a little bit of chunky behavior in this PDF. This is an extremely high def PDF. This one I've put into a laptop that's running a i5 from a couple years ago, and it chugs trying to zoom in or trying to look at anything because this is such a high def image. It's I wish it was actually smaller, the image. They don't, considering that there's no actual points of interest on here. That's just, hey, look at the map of Seattle with no useful gazetteer information on here. Something smaller that could be handed out better. As a printout goes, it's nice so that you can have sort of a visual guide when you tell your players, hey, this is the Tacoma airport that we're here, so they have kind of a basic spatial awareness capacity. But this PDF, just be prepared that on lower end systems, it's going to chug something awful. You do have some named NPC cards that come with this. These were all two-sided in the box. These are the stats for named NPCs. It gives you a wide selection from criminal gangs to government entities to fixers to all kinds of people that you can interact with. So you have a lot of setting support in Seattle that you don't have to create things from scratch. This is your gang sprawl card. This gives you the political breakdown of the gang operations in the area in here. These were some small adventure cards that you could put together. They were okay, I guess. If it had been grid lined, maybe they're really not useful because of the small size of them, more than just being able to show roughly where the type of setup in the room. You as a game master, you're going to be downloading material online to fill this role in my opinion. These cards weren't really worth it as part of the setting. You do have the sprawl reference card. Again, the big map doesn't have anything, but this one does tell you roughly where some big highlights are. This is the district map card, and this is actually showing this is actually the gangs again. Must have opened it twice. This is kind of a brief setting scenario guide. It's all like one-page adventure stuff in here. There's, unlike the other big book of the Serrated Edge, which is a full-on adventure campaign for your characters to run, and these are like one you as the game master didn't study the night before and just need to create a one-off adventure plot hook for them to engage in for the night, for a short run that's not connected to anything else. It is nice from a just, hey, here's a one-page adventure. Yeah, well, I mean, they're slightly more than one page each, but you know what I mean. Like in D&D, you would have like the one-page adventures that people write, that they give out for free on like itch.io or on one-page adventure rules. This is kind of that same vein. Short, small, non-interconnected adventures. You just need something quickly for the characters to engage in that night, and you need help creating a scenario, this is your options for that. Well, that has been the review of the Shadowrun 5th Edition Mega Bundle. Everything that's in it. In my view, if you have not gone into Shadowrun before, don't do 6th Edition. From everything I've heard, don't do it. However, 5th Edition, all my friends that continued into 5th Edition, they had good things to say about it. I just went off in another direction at that time just because there were other things that interested me more. Getting into the OSR rather than Shadowrun 5th Edition, but all of them still swear by 5th Edition. Those that didn't like 6th Edition continue to do 5th Edition. This is, in my point of view, for $18, a really good jumping off point if you've never done Shadowrun before and want to get into it. If you already have 5th Edition and just wanted some of these books that you didn't complete your collection with, now's a good time to do it. It's really focused on those who want to do Shadowrun. I did say that you can use it for other modern or sci-fi settings with some game master work. I mean, that's true of any rule set. The game master wants to spend enough work to fix it and mess with it and customize it to their heart's content. They can get it to work with anything. This is primarily, though, for those that want Shadowrun. You want Shadowrun, you get this bundle. If you want to play a different rules setting world, this isn't going to be your cup of tea. But for, again, $18, again, make sure you hit the 17 item version, so you get only charged the 18. This is a really good introductory point to the rules, to the setting, with the edition that is still regarded as pretty decent. Again, I'm a 4th edition lover. That's all my books are still 4th edition. All my friends did 5th edition, and they said it was fine. Don't do 6th edition. Terrible. Don't touch it. But that's our review for the today of what you get in the 5th edition bundle. If I missed anything, which I shouldn't have because I did a lot of reading to get this out in time, please let us know in the comments below if you have your own opinion on 5th edition Shadowrun, whether it's great, whether it's worth it or not, by all means. And as I said, if you do buy the bundle through our link in the pinned comment or the description down below, you can support the channel and help us do other Humble Bundle reviews. Like, just as I logged in here today for this last segment to be recorded for the 5th edition, I find out now I gotta get the Castles and Crusades Humble Bundle to review for the channel. No! I guess I should be glad that Humble Bundle's coming out with all these RPG bundles, but man, is it hurting my wallet right now. So I'll see you next time, which will be for this Humble Bundle. And in the meantime, hope you enjoyed the Shadowrun bundle, and we'll get to see what's next in Castles and Crusades. Peace out, everybody.